This is Dick Zondag, the garden doctor, and this morning it's getting to the middle of November, the beginning of to the end of November, and it's time to get the roses covered for the winter. In the northern climates, in order to keep hybrid teas viable through the winter, it's essential that you do a little bit of protection. And so, as you can see, we've done a good job of keeping the roses sprayed so that we have the leaves on them. They should be pretty hardy right now. We didn't do any deadheading because we didn't want to force any new growth. And so they look like they're ready to go into the winter. So this is how we winterize roses. We take a piece of twine, put a loop in the end, and then very carefully go around the rose, put the string through the loop, and just pull the rose together. Pull the branches all together. Okay, now it's ready for the winter protection. Now we can do winter protection in a couple different ways. Some people just mound soil up around the base of the plant, and what you're protecting is the union, the graft union, because if the rose dies back to the graft union, the rootstock will start growing and it will be of no value, because the rose that you bought is whatever comes up from that graft union. And so we want to protect that graft union. And so what I do with the roses, we have plastic cylinders that we will use to mound the soil up around the plants. So we take one of the cylinders. They have these little knobs that you can put around to hold the cylinder in place. So put the cylinder around the rose. And we match the hole up. Then we will take some mulch, and this happens to be pine bark mulch. We put it in the cylinder. I want to get it all the way around and shake it, the cylinder, so that it makes a good seal around the crown, around the graft union. If you want to do some additional protection, you can put some marsh hay around the plant. I don't do any cutting back of the foliage until spring, because it just does better. If the plant dies back a little bit, we can trim the brown off and the rose can come back. In the springtime, we want to take the stems off until they have about the size of diameter of a pencil, and then we can start them growing from that. So that's one way. Some people like to use rose cones, and this is one that we have in our garden center. It's made out of paper mache, and so what we do is we set it beside the the plant, and then we cut the plant back. So that the rose cone fits over the rose completely. Now, if you're using a styrofoam rose cone, which is another type of protection, we don't want to put holes in the rose cone, because what the rose cone does is like it's a coffee cup in reverse. You know, when you've got a styrofoam coffee cup, you don't feel the heat of the coffee. Well, what happens underneath the rose cone is that this moderates the environment in which the rose is being kept over winter. And instead of having the extremes of hot and cold and cold and cold, it moderates that. And so that's the way that the rose cone keeps the rose from dying over winter. Now, the other thing that you have to remember too is these things will blow away. So you want to get a brick and put it on top of the rose cone. And the other thing you want to remember is that you should seal it up around the base, because if you have rodents or mice or voles or other rodents that are in your area, if you don't seal the bottom of the rose cone, it makes a beautiful environment for them to survive the winter. So what we do is we take some of that pine bark and we put it around the rose cone. And seal it up so that those rodents can't get in it. So I'm going to go around and winterize the rest of my roses. This is Dick Zondag, the garden doctor, hoping your roses make it through the winter with flying colors.